Welcome to Behind the Mic, the deep dive behind radio theology. Here are your hosts, Daron Earlywine, Lisa Graff, and Ryan Allward.
Welcome back to another episode of Behind the Mic, the spiritual deep dive episode of Radio Theology Podcast. Pastor Daron Earlywine here with Lisa Graff, Ryan Allward, and this is for the week of March 8th. We sprung forward this week, guys.
2020.
2020. So hopefully you're on your clocks. Things make sense to you this week. If you're listening to this after the fact, it doesn't matter. You're probably set up in whatever time you have.
Yes. We'll just hope that your kids, your family has adjusted to this time change.
Yes. So this week on the show, we kicked around a lot of topics, had a lot of fun together. Mm-hmm. One of the things we talked about in the first hour of the show was this idea of choices, habits, and lifestyle. I was reading this past week, a couple weeks ago actually, and I don't remember where I got it from. I think I'm reading like 3 books right now. One of them is Tim McGraw's book, like True Grit or something.
Yeah.
It's about how to look awesome when you're 40.
Sure.
That's why I'm reading it. Because you remember Tim McGraw, he, huge country artist, married to Faith Hill, and there was a season. If you remember, did you maybe watch the movie Four Christmases?
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite Christmas movies.
Yeah.
Vince Vaughn's in it, right?
Yeah, he's his brother, right?
Tim McGraw is his brother, and I think they're all named after the town in which they were conceived.
Orlando.
Yes.
So Brad, his name is actually Orlando, and I want to say that possibly Tim McGraw's name is Dallas.
It sounds right.
Or something.
Yeah.
It sounds like it could be his actual name in real life, too.
Could
Either
be.
way.
It's such a good country singer name.
But he was a little fluffy in that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I remember the first time watching it thinking, oh, maybe did they have Tim McGraw, like, beef up to be like, the character?
Yeah.
No, Tim McGraw tells a story that he went to, he just kind of let him, like you do, kind of let himself going through life.
Yeah.
Enjoying being a freaking rock star, country star, you know.
Yep.
Beers before, after the shows, hanging out.
Yeah.
So he says he goes to the movie premiere and takes his teenage daughter with him. And he comes on screen, right? I mean, whatever, 30-foot, 40-foot screen.
Yeah.
And he comes on screen and his teenage daughter goes, "Oh my gosh, Dad."
Wow.
Like a giant hug?
She wasn't like, your acting is so good.
No,
Yeah.
she was like, "Dad, you look like a fat, puffy, Stay Puft Marshmallow Man." She didn't say that, but
Yes.
whatever she said, and he was like, it was this huge wake-up call where, like, hopefully you don't have to see yourself on a 50-foot movie screen to go, maybe I should get in the gym.
Uh-huh.
But it was a life changer for him.
Yeah.
Live like you're dying. Go skydiving, Rocky Mountain climbing.
I think he also rode 3.7 seconds on a bull.
I think it was
Fu Manchu.
Fu Manchu.
Yep.
That's right.
Yep.
Love deeper, spoke sweeter. Sorry, Darren. Back to you.
Are you guys done?
Yep.
Almost.
I mean, the chorus is coming.
Gotta
if
end
you
the
wanna
chorus.
jump in.
Go. We should just play the song.
Yeah.
The bridge was great.
Yeah.
So, yes, it was a wake-up call where he realized, wow, this is not the life I want to live.
Yeah.
I've got growing teenage daughters. I want to continue to tour the world and put out music. I want to stay married. I want to be like, this isn't the life I want.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he had to go back and break it down and realize, okay, this is pretty simple, actually. There's a life I want, and then there's the choices and the habits that I'm currently living in.
Yeah.
And so we unpacked that a little bit this week. And, man, I wish that living the life of your dreams or becoming the person that God's created you to be, like we talk about in the show all the time, I wish it was a lot sexier than choices and habits.
Mm-hmm.
But, man, it's really
not.
Those are the nuts and bolts of what life is.
Yeah.
I think some of it, too, is trying to pull back and say, like, what life do I want?
Right. Yeah. You have to start there.
As opposed to just operating.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's the next thing I have to do today?
Right.
Well, that was the kind of linchpin of the thought of the day this week was that you got to start with your why.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because I don't think you can consistently make the difficult choices and then allow them to become positive habits if you're not chasing a compelling and life-altering type. And I would even say, being that we're so much more than 46 physical chromosomes, I would say a purpose that is in sync with who God is and what he's inviting us into as his kids.
Yeah.
It's got to be a big enough why to be something that you're willing to say yes to the hard stuff and no to the easy stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, we talked a little bit on the show, but like I'm going to Mexico in a couple weeks, and so that's been an easy target, right? Like, and sometimes we just need that. And that's why I sign up for races and stuff like that, because I need the discipline of something to help me with that. And I think that that's fine. But it's been easier to get to the gym knowing I'm going to Mexico, baby, you know? And it's been easier to say no to the cookie dough and all the other things that I want to say yes to, in those small choices. But the harder part for me is when I don't have this big, deadline or race, or I'm not crossing the finish line of peaceful parenting, right? And so I'm like, ooh, it's harder than to wake up every day early so I can get my mind and spirit centered before the chaos assumes in my house. I wish there was, though.
Well, I think one thing, and Ryan, we keep coming back to this, and I always give you credit for it, for bringing the Michael Hyatt, the Focus Journal.
Oh, yeah.
Right, where he gives you 90 days.
Yes.
Chunking things out in 90-day sprints. And Tracy Cheatham, one of the amazing people that are on our team with Blackbird Mission and our spiritual DNA director, her and her husband, I don't remember what author turned them on to this, but this concept of introducing sprints to your life.
Oh.
Life is a marathon.
Sure.
And I think if you have a big goal, like you're saying, at least I want to be a more peaceful parent, and you're like, here we go. It starts today and it ends evidently when I die.
Right.
And I don't know how to necessarily measure growth over a decade.
Yeah.
But if you can create sprints where maybe you have a focus journal or something, Ryan, where you're writing it down, you're saying, okay, I'm going to sprint for the next 90 days. Or it could be shorter. I'm going to sprint for the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
But I'm going to make some tough choices here. I'm going to try to get them into habits. Now, I believe the stat is you have to do something maybe 21 days.
21 days, yeah.
In a row. So there's 3 weeks, right? So probably go for about a 3 or 4 week area. But I'm going to sprint for 3 weeks and see if I can't get a habit going here to start moving me towards that. Because I think a marathon type goal, I think it overwhelms you to the point where you probably want to quit.
Yeah,
that sounds about right.
Yeah, because it's so big and so, ominous.
Yeah, and something like peaceful parenting, what does that even look like? Well, I don't know yet, so it's hard to even imagine it. And if you can't imagine it, then you're really not I'm not going to project this on you. I'm really not taking great, confident steps in that direction because I can't even imagine it yet.
One of the things I talked about in the thought of the day was just that you see somebody and you instantaneously envy them. So this is on the spot, so I want you guys' brains to work quickly. Ooh. Can you think of something recently I'm saying in the past couple of years where you've seen someone else's life and you've been envious? Because I think sometimes we want to have pure motives in it all, but there were the sinful natures in there. And I think sometimes envy is actually how the devil begins to pervert what is actually a healthy desire. There's something in us that goes, man, I want to be more like that. And it's a godly desire. But instead of being able to humble ourselves and go, I've got some choices to make, the easy bottom cookies on the bottom shelf, right, is envy.
Yeah.
So it can be a trigger to say, I think maybe I want more of that. Can you think of a lifestyle like envy moment that maybe has helped you think about choices or things that you wanted to run towards?
In the moment, our friend Danny Adams.
Okay.
Yeah.
Danny and Kristen were on our podcast a while back.
Yeah, they do the really cool parody videos.
Yeah.
What's their Instagram? Danny and Kristen online or something?
Danny
like
and Kristen Adams, I think.
Kristen and Danny.
Kristen and Danny Adams. Yeah,
Check them out. They're hilarious.
They're fun.
Just search for them. They'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We gave them 6 wrong Instagram handles. Yeah. You'll find them, though.
So look for Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Yeah. And then you'll find it. I don't know. Something about them just struck me when we had them maybe, that was a year ago, maybe, feels like, or more, in for the podcast. Just something of their disciplined vision of where they're headed and what they're trying to create. Yep. And Danny, I think, is older than all of them. I think he's in his early, he might be your age, might be a little bit older than you, Darren. And you're 40.
Lisa, Ryan and I are having a conversation, and then you looked at me with this kind of coy.
He's older than all of us.
There was something funny that you needed to laugh at.
He's barely older than you, so he's 43.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Oh, what's this? What's this blue slider over here? Oh, it's Lisa's mic.
Yeah.
What? Me? He's the one that said it.
You
He's
laugh.
older than all of us.
You
except for
laugh.
you.
Except
He's
for
younger
you.
than you, old man.
I mean, Darren, were you like inspired by that Mucinex commercial you watched? Not Mucinex. What's the?
Were you inspired
that's
by
for-
Lincoln's Gettysburg Address when you were there hearing it?
Mucinex is stuff for
that's decongestant.
congestion.
You mean
what?
Centrum?
Centrum.
Was
No,
Centrum Silver?
No, the stuff that's the powder that helps you go poop.
Metamucil.
There we go.
There
Wow.
it is.
My
Ugh.
joke,
There it
even my
is.
jokes suck.
I think just my answer would be Danny.
So them.
Yeah,
Danny.
Danny. At that one point, just in our conversation, I don't even know what I was struck by. I was
Yeah.
like, I feel like he's going somewhere, and I should take some notes.
But see, and I love it.
Yeah.
It's small, but I've been around people that. Here's what you didn't do, Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
What you didn't do is see that and go, something triggered for me there, and you didn't go, well, he's probably a jerk anyway, and he's stupid. Like you didn't begin to deconstruct and tear him down,
Yeah.
and like because a lot of times you see that and you go, they have something I don't have.
Yeah.
So now I have an option. I either hate on you to deconstruct and destroy you down to the point where I can feel better about myself,
Yeah.
Right.
or I can go, oh, this is actually an invitation into becoming the best version of myself. I think most times, and I think most of our cultural realities is, well, for one, we hate discomfort and we hate humility.
Yeah.
So if I'm faced with, man, I'm inspired by something in you, I filter it as envy, and then I tear you down. I love the fact, Ryan, that you didn't. You thought about, you know what?
Yeah.
What is it about that? And we're not going to just deconstruct everything you're thinking about, but I'm sure there were some things that you thought, you know what? I'm going to start making some choices to move towards that direction myself. Lisa, you got anything?
I think Jamie Ivey, we've also had her on our podcast because I listened to her podcast pretty religiously for a few years, and she's so good at conversationally, and I love everything she says, and I love what she gets to do, which is encourage and inspire women, which is what I want to do, which is what I am doing, and I look at her and I'm like, oh yeah, that's who I would want to become like. Just because the opportunities that she gets to speak truth and hope into the lives of women. But one of the things she said in her podcast, which has stuck with me, is don't compare your start to my middle.
Ooh.
And I'm like, oh, that's so good because I'm like, oh, wish I could be a really great podcaster. I don't have a podcast. I'm not going to be an amazing Jamie Ivey caliber podcaster without a podcast, and the social media following and all of that stuff, all of the influence that she has. She's worked towards, not for the sake of influence itself, but for the sake of inspiring and encouraging women. And that's what she's doing. And so I'm like, well, I can just keep taking the steps I can take now. But I just held on to that really tightly. And I've used that phrase several times in looking at tons of people around me. I'm like, I'm at the beginning of my weightlifting journey, right? I can't check out some other girl in the gym and go, oh, man, ugh, did it, but dang,
Hope you trip on the way out and break your legs so you have to work out for 6 months.
Yeah, that's terrible. Yeah, I hope you no. But, but that's
You would never be that vindictive. I'm sorry, it was jokes.
Never, ever. But that's the tendency, right? That's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But I'm like, yeah, I don't know her story, but she's probably been working hard at this longer than I have. And, yeah, that's fine because I'm at the beginning. She's probably in the middle.
I love that. I can think about that. Like, don't miss the two things that we just said. Like, you're listening to the podcast. Like, this is gold.
Yeah.
Like, you need to hear that and begin to apply it to your life, because when you're not, you are allowing envy and negative emotions and comparison to steal the joy in the potential of your life. Okay. Love what you just said. And notice that we just talked about two people that were on our podcast. If you haven't gone back and started going through the archive of the 100-some episodes of the Born to Be interview, go do so. There's absolute solid gold for your life in those episodes. One thing that just popped into my mind as you guys were talking was, I remember as a kid when I would hear great preachers that seemed to have an amazing command of the Bible, and or people you would just meet and talk to, and they could always pull Bible verses and compare and bring the Bible into things, and I was always mesmerized by it, and inspired. And this is when I was a teenager. I want to be able to talk like that.
Yeah.
I want to be able to preach, and I want to be able to know how to bring the Word of God alive for people. But I remember feeling so overwhelmed as a kid because I'm like, but I don't know the Bible.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And there's only one way to be able to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's by getting a bunch of it stored in your brain so that the Holy Spirit can go access this file.
Right.
And so I remember as a sophomore in high school making the choice, right? This whole thing we're talking about, choice, habits, lifestyle, is I need to make the choice that I'm going to read the Bible every day. And for me, the why was I want to be more like Jesus. I want to follow him, right? But also, like, there was a why of I want to be able to know the Bible in a way where I can talk about it in a way that makes it accessible and inspiring to people.
Mm-hmm.
So I made a choice to read it.
Yeah.
Over that year, it became a habit in my life that I regularly, daily, or most days read the Word of God. And we've talked about it right now. Like, I listen to it almost as much as I read it.
Sure.
But that choice, those daily choices created the habit. The habit now is I'm that guy.
Mm-hmm.
I can do it.
Yeah.
And there's times when I'm actually doing it and like I'm like Bible verses are flying in my brain. I'm like, holy crap, man, this is what I want to do when I was like, 16.
Right.
Like to know the Word of God in a way that can help people navigate it. So I don't know what is your why. If you don't have one, begin asking God, I need to know a bigger why than getting through Monday.
Mm-hmm.
God will give that to you because he's created you on purpose and for a purpose. He wants to lead you towards that. How do you begin to look for cues? Look for those little moments where you're inspired or jealous, something that kind of stirs in you when you're around somebody. It could be, physical things. I think it is, Lisa. You're in there, you're like, you know what? Impressive legs you got on there, chick.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe she played high school and college soccer and she's been working out, and maybe you're on week 2 of it. Like,
Right.
don't compare yourself in a way that beats you up, but take that as inspiration. Maybe it's somebody that got a big promotion at work. You know what I mean? Maybe, like we talked about in the thought of the day, maybe you see somebody and you're like, man, it looks like they really enjoy being around their kids. Or I know Jill and I have been inspired by watching people who interact with their adult children
Yeah.
and going, wow, when my son's 23, I want him to want to hang out with me like that guy wants to hang out with his dad.
Right.
So what choices and habits do I need to bring now? So it could be in any area, but ask God for it and then begin to break it down into small little sprints. Over the next 3 weeks, what are some really basic choices I can make that could become a habit that could actually give me that lifestyle? Lisa, give us a reminder of what Lisa's Pieces was about this week.
Yeah, so this week we talked about, I had read this quote on the intranets about, it said something like, shouting self-care at someone who really needs community care is how we fail people. And so we talked about the difference between self-care, what lots of people think it is, what I think it is. Lots of people think it's the quick fix, bubble bath, dark chocolate, even head to the
Indulge
gym.
yourself a little bit.
Yes, put yourself on the list, whatever, from time to time. And then I think it is creating a life that you don't have to escape from, making those tough choices that become habits, right? To create this lifestyle where you're not always having to sprint to the bubble bath, in order to try to find some peace. But it got me thinking about community care and how, and you said it, and I feel that way exactly. Like we say, oh, just make sure you're taking care of yourself over there. Make sure you've got a space for you, And what we really need is us to show up for that person who needs it. So I shared the story of my friend who's going through chemo right now, and I ask her every few days, hey, what do you need? What do you need? And she hasn't taken me up on anything yet. I'm like, I have to keep offering. And then she said, you know what? I'm actually lonely. And I'm like, she's like, I can't leave the house. I drive my kids to school and that's it. I sit alone all day. I can't do a lot and I'm lonely. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I could say, oh, well, how about a nice bubble bath? Have you listened to this song lately? That'll probably cheer you up. Or I can rearrange my schedule and drive and sit with her on her couch. And that's what we did. And it's showing up for people instead of dismissing them with something easy like self-care. Or Christians do this all the time, dismissing like, well, you can do all things through Christ who gives you strength, right? We can throw all these phrases and empty things out at people.
Yeah.
And although I'm a huge fan of self-care, I'm a bigger fan of community care.
That inspires me, your example, Lisa, because I have to be honest. I mean, you are, your fivefold ministry function from spiritual DNA from Ephesians 4, you're a shepherd, right? You're a shepherd nurturer.
Yep.
So you naturally are drawn to caretake and to love people in that way. I'm not. It's one of my number 5 of 5, right?
Yeah, yep.
And I like to give people good little platitudes, and here's a bumper sticker that could help, and here's some good advice, but it's like, would you want to come sit for a while with me, I'd be like, I'll send you a video. Like,
yeah, right.
I'm not as drawn to it, and I need to be, because it's one of the most loving things that we can do. Just such a good reminder, but it's, really loving people well. It costs something, and a lot of it is being present,
Yeah. Well, and another part of it is like we're all really busy. Like we've got a billion things, and no one's better at making excuses than mothers, right? And I can say that because I am one, and I talk to them a lot. But it's like, Ryan, your wife Lauren is one of my best friends, and we love each other really well. And you know how we do that? Front porch drop, right? We live in the same neighborhood. It makes it really convenient. But like, hey, can I borrow this? Sure. Hey, do you have this? Or she's having a bad day, and I drop off a piece of candy on her front porch. Like, I don't even see her most of the time when we're loving each other well, But it's like it's still showing up all the easy ways too, so you don't have to make it super complicated. Nobody needs a 4-course meal.
Yeah.
You could deliver DoorDash, right? And it still means something coming from you.
Right.
If it's consistent follow-up friendship.
It kind of dovetails into it was kind of a funny conversation. We talked about that we only give people 3 minutes of attention. If it's in, it didn't make the top 10, but 3 of the big things that make us go, tune out and just go, is anything about someone else. I mean, someone else's wedding, someone else's vacation, someone else's kids, someone else's hopes and dreams. And, Ryan, I think we can talk about the random, but I think maybe we bring it back to the closest relationships to us. I have to admit, and I don't know if you see this in your life, you and I are a little more similar to Lisa as far as makeup. We're not as compassionate as Lisa. But I find sometimes that I struggle even in my own home of like talking to the boys about something and something in their life, you know what I mean? Or even Julie, my wife. And then before you know it, like I'm just queuing up a story about myself and like what I'm doing.
Right. Yeah, let me tell you what life was like when I was 5, Olivia, to my daughter.
Yeah.
She doesn't want to know that. She wants to know. I'll color with her if she asks.
Yeah.
Like she doesn't care about what she's like, I don't care about that.
Right.
I've been noticing lately she's been asking me, she's like, will you just sit here and be with me? I think her love language might be quality time.
Okay.
And I'm like, yeah, we can do that. There's sometimes where, probably more often than not that I have to say no. Because it's like, well, I've got to do this, and I don't want to send the message that she's not important. But today, like we go on at least one daddy-daughter date breakfast a week together, and it's awesome.
Yeah,
it's so fun. Like we both love it. She gets hyped for it, and it's also a motivator in the morning when she's just like when she wakes up, she's just on, right? And she can kind of have ADD where it's just like I've asked you 4 times to go brush your teeth, but going to the roost. It's like, hey, if we're going to do this, you need to put your clothes on. She's like, oh, yeah. But I hear what you're saying, though. Yeah, sometimes, more often than not, probably the thing can turn to me, what I'm doing, what I've got on the horizon. Like, when you go too far out into the future, you're not present with people.
Well, and I've learned this from you, Daron, actually. So we'll give you props. You are really good at asking good questions. And so I have tried to incorporate some of that into my life instead of trying to queue up a story. Oh, that reminds me of this that happened to me today, or, when I was 5 or whatever. But trying to stay present enough in the conversation to queue up the next good question that could invite someone deeper into the conversation.
Yeah. Well, and that comes back to I've had to work hard at that.
Yeah.
I'm a more of a bass voice as far as not a bass voice, but in the kingdom, right? This is something you learn in spiritual DNA. I'm an apostle, apostle pioneer is how God's created me. If you don't know who God's created you to be, go take spiritual DNA, spiritualdna.me, where you go to get it. But I compete back and forth between being an apostle or an evangelist, or the other two words you could do is pioneer or connector. And I'm beginning to see more and more of my connector tendencies. And Ryan, you're a connector.
Number 1.
Yeah. And one of the blind spots I've just read about this of a connector is they tend to boomerang conversations around to themselves.
Oh.
They don't do it intentionally. We don't do it intentionally. We're so excited about something that we've learned or that we know or that whatever. It's just, and it's our greatest gift. Our greatest gift is to give connections and resources and opportunities to other people.
Yeah.
The downside of that is we talk about ourselves all the time.
Yeah.
And I know I do that. And so you say I ask good questions, but I can remember being around a handful of people that when I was around them, I was like, they helped me understand and come to great breakthroughs in my own life. And they actually taught me like the art of asking good questions. And it was moments where I was with them where I had that inspirational kind of jealousy.
Yeah.
Like, dude, that was such a good freaking question. Like, why can't I do that? And I realized I can't do it because I'm thinking about some piece of advice I'm going to give you, so I feel good about myself that I have things to give you.
Right. Yeah.
But now I just made this whole thing about me, not what you're going through. And I actually did like a whole year discipleship thing with a guy named Matt Tebby, who leads Gravity Leadership as his organization. And I had to make choices that became habits to try to force myself, like, stop giving people advice. Like, make the choice, ask a question. And I've had to, like, read, like, this sounds stupid. I even got this, there's a really cool, I think it's the Goddard, it's an app. Goddard, the Goddard Center for Marriage has this app, and it's called CARD, C-A-R-D, CARD Decks. My counselor told me about it. Gottman, G-O-T-T-M-A-N, Gottman Card Decks. And there are literally, like, you have all these cool questions to ask and ideas for intimacy, ideas for dates, all this kind of stuff. One of them is open-ended questions. And I will actually, like, go through this sometime and read the questions because I'm like, okay, Julie's going to come home. I don't want someone to be like, how was your day? Yeah. And so I will actually have to go through and find these. And it's like, or we'll go on a date and I'll be like, trying to, like, I've done this before. I've gone to the bathroom.
I was going to say sneak to the bathroom.
Gone to the bathroom and been like, then I come back and I'm like, so you could be a genius in any art, music, drama, or dance. Which talent would you choose and why?
That's funny.
So good.
That's really funny.
But trying to say, okay, I know that the kind of lifestyle I want is for people to be around me and to feel known and to be seen and to be able to let people have their own breakthroughs of discovery. Well, the only way that happens is asking good questions. And so I had tried to learn to make the choices, create a habit, but it's tough because I still love to hear myself talk.
Yep.
Good thing God gave me a radio show. Listen, we got to go. It's been a joy to be with you again here on Behind the Mic. We'd love to hear from you. Just email us, any of us, either Lisa, Ryan, or Daron at blackbirdmission.com, or you can direct message us right on radiotheology.com. We'd love for you to leave a review and share this episode with any friends and family, maybe even an enemy, to let us continue to spread faith, hope, and love of Jesus, and remind people they are made on purpose and for purpose, that God's for them, not against them, that He is near them, not far away. Have an amazing week. We love you. We'll talk to you next week right here on Behind the Mic.
Thanks for listening to Behind the Mic. For more episodes, go to radiotheology.com.